another video, I'm afraid. Yeah, some more of this stuff. This thing goes on for quite a while, so it's still apparently live. So it's going to be a lot to have to listen to. But there's, I'll take notes or something, I guess. Find a piece of paper to take notes on. Anyway, I did write down the word just because Pyrrho did. There was some other thing that they would stay to that I wanted to get to, but I just don't remember, and I don't want to go back. It's it'll take forever. But anyway, but Pyrrho did make this argument he's made in the past, and it's just, again, this is just so frustrating because these are arguments that there really should be resolution on. We really should say this is a marginal argument, this is not a good argument, this shouldn't be reused over and over again. This is just sort of a bullshit evasion of the subject. So Pyrrho says he's pro-choice, and what he means by pro-choice is somebody has the right to make me, and then I have to kill myself. So that he gives me the choice to kill myself. And he gives it to me in this context. Let's acknowledge that this choice doesn't exist. Certainly for people who aren't, catastrophically, and even the catastrophically ill aren't even given this choice. In a lot of countries, you can be catastrophically ill, and they won't give you the choice. And so that's the true context here. And yet he'll talk as if this is not only a good enough solution, that I will oblige the victims to, have to end their, to void the experiment after the experiment is conducted. So you'll give them the right to kill themselves once the dioxin gets to their doorstep, so to speak. Which is just a bullshit. It's, again, it just evades the truth of it. Because he's not going to give it to 5-year-olds. He's not going to give it to 7-year-olds. He's not going to give this choice to these children. And so they're going to be obliged to live and exist in a world and then become part of that world and then have to still take care of the problem eventually when they're finally given a right, if they're ever given this right, which I don't think there's any evidence they're ever going to be given this right. So it is just such a canard. It's such a pile of crap. And I think if you actually gave people the right to commit suicide freely and with some liberty, your society would degrade rather rapidly because I think a lot of people would take advantage of the choice. It's just a fact. People would be a lot more conscious of, when it's really bad, about how bad it is and about how they'd rather not survive the bad. But anyway, it's just such a bullshit argument. To say something like pro-choice after you've already, it's like telling the rape victim, I'll give you the choice to kill yourself after I rape you. I mean, it's just bullshit. Absolute bullshit. So anyway, I'll listen to some of this stuff and take notes and then work on it. But yeah, I'm not going to like this. I'm sure I'm not going to like this. It's going to be long, tedious, and irritating. Oh, it's even worse than I thought. He's back to this stupid idiotic argument that the cells are doing it. The cells are reproducing. He doesn't have anything to do with it. And then he talks about the choice that animals are making. So now he's going to talk about how animals choose not to reproduce in captivity, which is absolutely ludicrous, right? It has nothing to do with making a choice. It just has to do with the fact that their biological functions are delicate and they can't perform their normal biological functions when they're not in a normal environment. Duh. It's like, some people can't have sex if somebody's watching, right? They just, can't do it.
At least not until you make the captivity so nice they think they're not captives. And
I don't think they think they're captives anyway, but regardless, the point is yes, you have to make their environment conducive. You have to create the stimulus that exists in their real world that creates the atmosphere, so to speak, the moonlight and whatnot, that may be necessary to their reproductive function. But again, they don't choose to reproduce. The animals are not choosing to do any of this kind of shit, okay? They're doing it because it's a biological function like breathing, and to say they choose to breathe is an idiotic thing to say because we don't choose to breathe. It's an impulse created inside of us, and to reject it is to suffer. Duh.
They choose not to reproduce because the environment is not conducive to them wanting to reproduce. Humans are vile almost.
It's DNA extortion, and an intellectual should be opposed to extortion as a method of persuasion. Okay, nothing should be extorted. All right, so it's just as invalid as the capitalist work contract. So if you can understand why the capitalist work contract is extortion and invalid, you should be able to understand why the natural contract of, yes, it hurts if I stop breathing, is not a valid contract saying I endorse to my existence because I continue to breathe. That's absolute crack shit, and you goddamn know it, and use that as an excuse for why animals do what they do, and they've chosen to do something. They haven't chosen to do any of this shit. They've been remaining ignorant. They're like ignorant slaves, and you're saying because the ignorant slaves aren't revolting and say, I understand slavery, and because they're not saying it in English because you never taught them how to speak the damn language, that somehow that's your answer. Your answer is there. There's no answer, right? Because I don't teach them how to fucking goddamn read and write, so they didn't write a sign saying stop. Now, therefore, I can say they don't think I should stop. It's just fucking manipulative crap, and you to sit there and impose those motives on the animals and say somehow they're responsible for their fucking goddamn fate is just such a weaselly cunt of a fucking accusation to make. No, goddamn it, okay? You want this system to be validated, and you're signing the contract you're putting the pen in their paw and then writing their signature. That's fucking goddamn bullshit, Pyrrho. You have no right to steal their vote, to play that game with their fucking consciousness and say they have validated the game. They haven't. Damn these people. Yeah, I believe I'm back. I don't know. Making a video? I don't know. Did I already start this video? It doesn't matter. I'll just go over some things here that I wrote down and then play a little clip from old Andy here where he's talking about, again, that somehow facts and logic are for our use. Yes, we use these things. They're not something that create an obligation. They're not things that an obligation to the truth, an obligation to where these facts and logic point to. So again, it's just using intelligence as a mechanism for scheming, not a mechanism for discovery. And this is from a guy pretending as if he's in some search for enlightenment and the truth, and he's not. So anyway, so then back to the Pyrrho thing. You know, this idea of the being accountable to the mechanism. And he's just not. You know, he's just making these arguments again from this idea that somehow the DNA makes them do it. And there's no connection between the DNA molecule and procreation that is anything but indirect or consequential. The DNA molecule has taken the shortcut, because animals are all ignorant, of just creating sexual desire. Animals do not desire to procreate. Just doesn't happen. They accidentally end up procreating, doing the thing they do desire to do, which is copulate, fornicate. But they do not wish to procreate. And when human beings want to procreate, outside of the female urges that there might be for women to have things to cuddle and take care of, which is a different kind of psychological thing, but certainly not a thing psychologically connected necessarily to the act of sex or as a consequence of sex. But regardless, outside of that, there's certainly the male urges don't have anything to do with this procreation thing. That's a social convention. That's something you're conditioned into, like baseball versus cricket, or soccer versus football. That's a cultural thing, you know, where your ego is manifesting this desire for progeny and some notion that you wish to have children. It's not a biological function. That wish is a contrivance of tradition and cultural ownership, and maybe some, I don't know, a little pedophilia thrown in or something. I don't know why. I don't know. Like I said, I never found the idea of creating a giant leech to suck my life energy out of me. I just never thought of that as being a brilliant idea. But anyway, it's just ego crap. It's what it comes down to. It's not a function of the biology. It's a function of your psychology, and that's a function of your cultural ownership. The fact that you are a possession of cultural memes, not possessed by a DNA molecule that's obliging you to have prodigy. Come on. You have sexual desires.
Their view of what facts are versus axioms. We have logic.
Okay, facts versus axioms, which is really just playing a game with the reality, right? Okay, evolution is what? An axiom? Well, it's certainly a circumstantial description of our origin. Now, you either accept it as a fact, or you play some game and pretend that, well, even though it seems like that is the truth, I will pretend that we cannot make a commitment to that as a reality, and now I will open the door to any kind of crap as a theory of purpose or function. And that's all he's going to do. So, by associating facts with axioms, he's saying that somehow it's a projection. There's something dicey or illegitimate about establishing certain truths, certain facts, as something not reasonably contestable. Something you can't really have a theory of reality and exclude, like the speed of light or something. It's not just an axiom, it's a circumstantial fact, and if you're going to have a theory of something, you're going to have to account for it, just as you're going to have to account for the existence of the evidence of evolution. You can't just evade it by saying it's not real. It's just a projected truth, not a legitimate truth.
We want logic to do things for us.
Logic to do things for us, again, as if the truth is there to be abused, and as if we should force the facts to serve us rather than us serving the truth. Just completely backwards.
The second that it turns on us, we should drop it.
There you go. See, it's the second it turns on us. So the second we have to realize we're culpable or responsible, the second, it's like if a corporation had this ethic of his, right? That would just mean the second our corporation kills some people in India or does something else to degrade the welfare of something, then it's turning on us. Yes, it's time for us then to drop it, to just pretend it didn't happen, to evade responsibility, bury the bodies and just run away.
Logic, as Benatar has shown in his asymmetry, which actually is, he hasn't shown it, but let's just assume that he did somehow logically show that we can't make
he logically showed that don't make a problem, you won't have to fix a problem. Pretty much logically showed that you can't possibly lose if you take losing off the board. There's no way of losing then. If there's no lose space on the board, you can't land on it. That's pretty much a proof, in my opinion.
Make a case for our own continued existence, or we can make a case for creation, I guess. And what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to say, I'm sorry, but that's not what I invented logic for. It's not what I reached for logic to do for me.
Again, so is this a non-starter or not? I mean, how can you possibly premise an argument about I'm going to argue philosophy, but I'm not going to obey any rules of logic or any rules of reasonableness? So all reason is off the table. Okay, so what's the point then? Is there any point in having a trial if you're going to basically say all evidence is suspect? Is there any point in having a trial if all evidence is going to be considered suspect? No, there really isn't, is there? No, there isn't. No point in having a brain if all you're going to say is I can just make up what I want to be true. I don't have to obey any rules of reasonableness.
I am not completely logical. I have part of myself which is not logical, so I have the option of accepting or rejecting logic.
Right. So he has, I mean, is there, like I said, is this a non-starter for somebody who wants to have a rational conversation? This isn't a rational premise. There's no ground for any kind of building of anything on this nothing ground of quicksand where I will change the goalpost. I'll do whatever I want. As soon as I'm in trouble in the argument, I will evade accountability. So what's the point?
Whenever anybody on the internet flies into a rage over somebody else saying something that they don't agree with, they are then suspending logic. They are then saying, I am no longer in the field of logic. I am now in some other...
Well, whatever. You can't really understand him. But again, he's just, like I said, he already said it as plainly as possible, right? It's the logic is there for his utility. And as soon as it's not useful to him, again, it's time to just say, fuck it. I don't like that rule. I don't like, if civilization requires me to be fair, well, then I don't want to play fair, so I'll reject the premise that that's a rule of civilization is something called fairness. So what's the point? There is none. That's right. Alright, so we'll play some of this and I'll be back probably. Alright, anyway, this is getting kind of entertaining. This is just kind of funny. Hotday and Anaconda fighting about logic, right? Anaconda just keeps talking about logic being a tool, right? Now, anybody who has any respect for the process of discovery, this idea of we seeking a truth, understands that that's what logic's utility is that logic has the utility of making it possible for us to understand where to look. Right? We don't look. If I want to find worms, I don't look into the clouds because I logically know, based on what the evidence is and basic just function, that worms can't live in clouds. Blah 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 blah. Well, technically, some kind of worms do, but anyway, that's a whole different subject. But the point is, I'm talking about earthworms. This is always the game you have to play with people because they want to dice and slice words into pieces. And so Pyrrho just chimed in, and he basically just says he doesn't believe in any axioms. He doesn't believe there's any self-evident truths. He doesn't believe that the words we invented to describe things were actually descriptive words. So when we said wet to describe water, that word now is not valid. That description isn't real. We didn't make a sensible connection between this word and a concept called wetness. Just as two-ness doesn't exist, four-ness doesn't exist, six-ness doesn't exist. In and of itself, self-evident fact. Six-ness is a quality. Something has it, or it doesn't have it. This is the rule of logic. It either is, or it is not. But it can't be both. So it is 6, not 5, not 7. It is 6. And this is the rule of having a rational conversation on any planet in the universe. And these assholes don't want to do that because, yes, the facts point somewhere, and they do so logically. When you look at the facts of our existence, they point to certain things as being the truth about what we are. And they don't like that truth, so they will rape, okay, the concept of rational discussion, the concept that words are describing concepts, that the idea of concept must have some integrity. You must have some concession that we will have an agreeable language, agreeable vocabulary, and if you do not accept that as a premise, there is nothing to talk about. There's no point because you will cheat. You're fucking cheaters. These words don't mean anything, but you'll change their definition when it's fucking convenient. And that's just such bullshit. It's so obnoxious that, like Hotday is so right here in the sense that there's no argument to be had on this playing field. You're allowed to cheat, but because I have respect for the truth and I have respect for the concept of words that retain meaning, that you will cheat me? Because I won't cheat. I'm not going to sit there and change the definition of words. Oh, that's so evil.
That we pretend is the starting point.
Yeah, where we pretend it's a start. Yeah, this will just blow up all reality. And this is atheism on the internet. This is what atheists do to fucking goddamn reality. This convenientism. That's all this is. Fucking goddamn convenientism. Oh, it's disgusting. I mean, really, it's like watching a rape. They are raping the dignity of the only valuable thing about human beings is their capacity to do this thing of recognizing properties and recognizing categories and putting things in those categories properly and reasonably and sensibly. Just, ugh.
Modern academics would contend that as the starting point. Fair enough, if you want to be so precise, that's fine.
Well, because I'm going to object to the whole idea. I think they're fooling themselves. It's not the starting point.
So okay, we'll start there, because, and we'll have that wrangle. That's a good place to be, and then to agree to be. Is there?
Because I love logic.
Is there a...
Oh, yeah, you have no respect for it. Yeah, I love logic, and this is bullshit, right? I mean, yeah, you have no respect for it. There is no logic without vocabulary, asshole. There's no logic if you're going to say, well, it's not really 6. It's not 6 on whatever, on an upside-down moon in a make-believe universe that I just invented. It's not 6. 6 is 17 there. So, yeah, so I will cheat. That's all you're talking about, is how to cheat the truth, how to cheat the facts, because you want to make room for your fucking goddamn lies. And then you tell me you have some respect for logic? No, you don't.
Yes. There is no self-evident truth.
No self-evident truth. 2 is not 2. It is not by its definite, by just its very existence. It cannot be anything else. This 1, 2. There's 2 things. 2. This is a fact. This has 2-ness. It is not it's not disputable. It's not rejectable. It is self-evident. It fits in the category by its very existence. There's no rational way to convert it into anything else. It is a fact. It has 2-ness. Period. And you're only being a lying cunt if you say, no, I don't want to accept that. It's not convenient. It's not into my interest. And that's all you're doing.
There's no self-evident.
No.
There is. I can't be taller than something and shorter than something at the same time.
Well, you can't. If you measure closely enough, your height is uncertain.
If you measure closely enough, your height is uncertain. So this is a game they're going to play. Okay, so all of a sudden I'm 500 feet and I'm 0 feet at the same time. This is the kind of bull. What is the point? You can't have a rational conversation with some asshole who will allow you to establish no rulers for a conversation. I mean, you can obviously there's no mathematics, there's no standard, there's no scales, absolutely 0 scales. No scales are legitimate because Pyrrho can quantize them into rubbish with nonsense, with absolute nonsense. Not because there's some real problem, not because 2 inches isn't really 2 inches, just because he doesn't want 2 inches to be 2 inches, because then he has to be responsible.
But I can't be taller and shorter.
Tallness is an axiom. Tallness is an assumption. Tallness is not an absolute.
So again, there's no point in having a conversation, is there? The atom that is on the tip of this pencil, the atoms on the tip of this pencil weigh as much as the sun. That's not false. Fundamentally, overtly, obviously, without rational dispute.
There are no attributes that are absolute. I can't be taller or shorter than something, I agree. But that assumes that tall and short mean something, which they don't for all relative terms.
So again, all relative terms, what's the point? Why don't you make all language relative? Why don't you just change all? Why don't you just say forget about it? Why are you having conversations on the internet? Oh, that's right, because you're just a cheater. Words mean something when you say them. They don't mean anything when somebody else says them. That's all you're fucking saying. I will negate your words. I'll negate your sentences. I'll negate this meaning, the word. I'll just blow it all up except when I'm using them. When I use words, they mean something. When you use words, they mean nothing. That's all you fuckers are saying. Clearly.
That they are relative, and we did make them up. It's something that we said. Let's make the word.
We didn't make up the concept of 2-ness. We did not make up the concept of 3-ness. We did not make up the concept. I can go right down the goddamn mathematical scale. We do not make up the fact that something has properties. We make up a word to describe the properties, but the actual category that lists that property as a constituent of being in that category, we did not make up. We do not make up the fact that snow is relatively cold. We do not make up these things. These things are observed facts.
Everything, right? The agreements on truths will, as well, Pyrrho understands this about how it becomes tautological, but the fact that it becomes tautological is of no consequence. Can you agree that listen, we have to find one of these self-evident truths for you? It'll be difficult to find.
There's plenty of self-evident truths. Red is not blue. There's a self-evident truth. Red is not blue. They're obviously different fucking goddamn things. Okay? There. This eye is not this eye. Self-evident. Not disputably reasonably. They are not the same eye. This eye is different than this eye. They're in different sockets in my fucking head. I mean, this is, there just really is no point, right? If this is what intellectuals, if this is how they will rape the only thing that rises us above maggots is our ability to use language in some sort of rational, meaningful way. And these fuckers, these fucking evil bastards just want to rape this only vehicle of intelligence, the only way intelligence can speak. And they will rape it. Rape the vocabulary till it's dead. Rape it to death. Fucking bastards. Oh, it really is horrible to watch this kind of stuff because, I mean, I've already said it, but I mean, I'll just repeat it. This is so anti-intellectual, and it's just such an overt way of just cheating. I mean, we have to do. It's the first step of doing science, of being any kind of disciplined intelligence, is to recognize that the words you use must mean something. You cannot use words that you don't agree on their definition. And if I say, this is not this, these two things are not the same thing. You have to understand what the word same means. Same means it has to be it. It's not it. This is not this. They are not they are not each other. They are distinctly not each other. It's a fact. It's an explicit statement. It is now an axiom of self-apparent obviousness based on the words we're using. This cannot possibly be this, because they are occupying different space, and we understand that things can't occupy different space and be each other. And that's like a rule. That's a premise for a rational conversation. You can't have a rational conversation if you're going to just sit there and say, this is this. It's not. This is different than this, and they're quite obviously different. And the word different means something, because it's different is the word we use to describe when this and this are not the same. Anyway, I shouldn't have to do this. This is, like I said, this is just fundamental to the processing of intelligence. You cannot do anything called intelligence and disobey these rules. You can't. All you can do is shit. All you can do is make sounds. It doesn't mean anything. But again, that's not the game. These liars like Pyrrho and this fucktard, this isn't the game they're playing. What they're saying is when I use words, they mean something. When I talk about injustice or rape, I'm talking about real words. But when you talk about it, these words don't mean anything. I now negate their existence with my catch-20 fucking goddamn 2. That's all this guy is. This is catch-20 fucking goddamn 2. All over the place. I will fuck the language, alright, to make it possible for me to win in a dirty, lousy, stinking, weaselly cheat of the truth, of honesty. Anyway, let's hear. Arthur is remaining somewhat unflustered, but you can see his hair is sticking up a little. So yeah, it's getting to him. Let's see if let's see what he does here.
Okay, I can handle that position equally as well. Right, this machine, full of all this this information working problematic nature of arbitrariness and difficulty of lighting and confusion of algorithms.
He's describing a machine that would just merely detect shininess based on a standard, of properties. So it detects properties, puts it in a category shiny. Yes, it can make errors. Who cares? The machine is going to describe a category of shininess, and it's going to fit the machine's criteria. That's the definition. Pretty sensible.
Whether you like it or not, yeah, it puts some balls in the bin labelled shiny. The rest go forward saying unshiny. What we can do is we can agree.
Yeah, I should have just established a machine that just weighs them and says 10 pounds, and let's say 10 pounds and over and 5 pounds and under. Yeah, and everything else we're not going to pass judgment. We're just going to make two categories: 10 and over, 5 and under.
That the balls in the bin, we will call shiny by definition. Can you forget whether you think it's shiny or whether you wish that one should have gone through? We're going to stick.
Yeah, exactly. So it doesn't matter whether you call it rape or you don't call it rape, right? I mean, the standards of rape you just agree on arbitrarily. You basically just say, okay, for the sake of the argument today, the word rape means that you stick a penis in a vagina without permission. We'll call that rape today. It doesn't matter what the definition is. The point is you have to agree on a definition before you can have a conversation. There's no conversation without agreeable terms. So again, if you're going to just arbitrarily, when you feel like it, say, let's no longer speak English, let's speak some other language, and I'm going to use a word now that one day meant something, and now today it's not going to mean anything. So unless you are willing to have conversation with precise language, which this asshole doesn't do, and which this asshole does not do, then why do you have any right to talk at all? You're presuming I understand your language. You're presuming I understand what you mean by wrong or right or any of these words you use, or something's being a threat or it's a tyranny. Like these words mean anything. These words can't mean anything by your own fucking rules. You haven't qualified your definition for the context of the conversation. So why do you have a right to opine when you will take away other people's right to have an opinion by disqualifying it with this idea that you're going to raise a technical objection? It's just absolute nonsense. It's just it's just an overt fucking cheat. I will knock the game over as soon as I'm losing. As soon as you start losing the game, you just knock the board over. I'll knock language over. I will not obey language anymore. Rape is not rape anymore because it's not to my convenience today for rape to be rape.
Yeah, the ones in the bin that have gone in the bin shiny are shiny.
But you come around, that sounds a little arbitrary. Yeah, sure, but it's
it is arbitrary.
Yeah, so, okay, yes, you can call it whatever you want. You can call red objects red, and we agree you can call them red objects red. We're saying that doesn't make them red.
Oh, I don't even know why they have to do this stupid red thing, right? Because it doesn't matter whether you're seeing blue when the point is you will recognize red as whether you see it as some other color or not, you'll still call it red. And that's the only part that matters. It has a frequency. It has a factual property of redness. It is not subject to your fucking interpretation. It has a certain nanometers between the fucking goddamn photons. It's a fact that the distance exists. It's an explicit fucking distance. It don't care whether you're seeing it some other color. It doesn't goddamn fucking matter. It has an explicit, describable difference between the other colors. I mean, again, they're just cheating. Because they will not do what I just did. They will not sit there and premise every one of their conversations with a list of the vocabulary they're going to use and the definitions of those motherfucking words they're going to use. They don't do that. And yet they will play this catch-22 bullshit game in the middle of the conversation. They'll just start yelling, catch-22, I changed the definition of that word today. I mean, can you You assholes who would defend these assholes, can you not see that that's what they are doing here? That you cannot possibly have something called intelligent conversation under their fucking rules? What I say means something, what you say means nothing? Do you really think that's a rational rule?
You with me? We all agree.
You could call them that.
Just let's wait for him to come.
Anyway. Oh, it really is pathetic. So I mean, Hotladay's just trying to get agreement on the idea that something gets knocked, based on an algorithm. It gets knocked in a bucket or it continues on a conveyor belt. And he can't even get these fucktards. Well, he sort of got a reluctant agreement from that asshole. And I don't know what he got from Anaconda Vada. I was left the room thing. But anyway, and now Pyrrho's going to give his evasion. So he won't even concede that something can't have done both. It can't have gone on the conveyor belt and fallen into the bucket. He won't even do that. So this is an asshole who will talk about what society needs to do and what our culture needs to do, what the problems of our existence are, and blah, 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 blah. He'll do all this fucking pontificating on all these subjects using fucking vocabulary for which he has no fucking respect. Where he won't even concede something obvious, that this pencil is not this pencil. He won't even do that. For the sake of fucking rationality. For the sake of, why am I talking to you, asshole? I won't talk to you. I won't have a conversation with you unless you will concede that this pencil is not this pencil. If you won't concede that, there's no fucking point in me having a conversation with you, asshole, because you're just going to make shit up. Quite obviously.
Etc. Yeah, I think it's in the bucket. We can categorize it that way. I see a certain amount of arbitrariness that I want to rely on later in this argument. I'm not pushing that now. But we do have this quantum thing where we don't really understand what space means, what locality means. Is it in the bucket? Is it entangled with something across the universe and in a bucket across the universe as well, or instead? We don't.
This is the danger of this whole quantum thing, exactly. This is why the physics has got to grow the fuck up, be a man, okay, and finish this, kill this nonsense, this imbecilic nonsense, this fucking bullshit that I will just use the quantum catch-22 whenever I don't like a truth. Quantum catch-22. This is just so obnoxious. I mean, these people just, these assholes deserve global warming. They deserve whatever happened. You fucking deserve it. You don't deserve to have a brain. You don't deserve to breathe air. You're just so you're disgusting creatures. To do crocodiles, if they went to fucking grammar school, would not do this to the truth. They wouldn't. This is disgusting. You are disgusting creatures. This rape of rationality entirely. Just rape the fuck out of it. As a mechanism for discovering the facts and recognizing our position in the universe. No, I don't want to recognize it. I want to make it up. That's all these fuckers are saying. I just want to make it up. I want it to suit me. I will make the truth fit me. That's all he's saying. Selfish cunt. Irresponsible douchebag. Oh, I hate these people. I mean, this is like I said, this is what intellectuals are doing. We got all these fucking ignorant buffoons fucking us over on this planet, making babies they can't take care of, making problems we can't feed or care for, and these fucking intellectuals are wasting their time saying, I'm going to use the quantum eraser effect to get rid of all those inconvenient truths. Really is just so pitiful, just to watch this. I don't know if I'm going to keep watching, but I guess I'm curious to just see when Hothladay finally gives up and just says, "Fuck this. There's no conversation." And so again, Pyrrho will not. If I said this pencil is not this pencil, that this pencil is not this pencil, and never will be this pencil. These two pencils are individual pencils, and it will be true forever. No matter how long or far or whatever the universe does, it'll always be true that this pencil is not this pencil, that they are not the same pencil, they are distinctly different pencils, and that they represent actually two-ness. When I have them in my hand, they now are representing, they have the quality of two-ness. Two-ness is all over them. It's quite obvious that there's a two-ness happening here. You won't agree to that. He'll say, no, I will not accept that truth if that truth is going to be the premise for some theory of anything that I don't like. Now, if it's a theory I like, if you're going to say something like, well, because these two pencils are distinctly different pencils, Pyrrho gets a $100 bill, well, then Pyrrho's going to say, yeah, those are two different pencils. But if the truth of these two pencils, these being two pencils, means that Pyrrho has to pay $100, well then Pyrrho will say, catch-22. They're not two pencils. You haven't proven it. The end of the universe, there's some fact where they were really the same pencil and we were just fooled. This is just so fucking, it's such a crock of shit for anybody to be on the internet talking shit as he does. Miles and miles and miles and miles of shit. When this fucker will play a game like this with anybody else's axioms. His axioms, yes. This fucker, his axioms, yes. The axiom that tyranny is bad. That axiom is true. Tyranny, I can use the word tyranny and I can talk about tyranny and the tyranny and the tyranny and tyranny. I can use that word all fucking goddamn day long and it means something. But if somebody else uses the word imposition, that don't mean shit. That's the level that these fucktards are having an argument, right? There's no argument to be had here. They will not play a fair fight. They won't fight. They won't play a fair game. Again, it's just the same thing. The same thing as some weaselly little kid when you're a kid. Remember that? When somebody's losing the game and they decide to just flip the board over. They just give a little tantrum and say, I quit. Rage quit. They're just rage quitting on the truth. Rage quitting. Oh, when the truth isn't convenient, rage quit. Rage quit on the truth. When logic points to something you don't like, rage quit. That's all this is. Fucking goddamn. Fucking Jesus Christ. Why should we have to tolerate this? Why should I have to even respond to these assholes? This is disgusting behavior from adults. Ugh. I don't know if I can stomach any more of it. It's an anti-natalist room. Maybe I'll go in there for a while. Snake Plisskenus made a video. Oh. It's just the horror, just never, it's just, there's no escape from the horror. Oh, there's no escape. Little bug cartoons. I'm a drunk. Yeah, coincidence. Anyway, next time. Alright, so I just went into the Flyora room, you know, the anti-natalist, and so there's this asshole in there, white-haired asshole, who I should like, but no, forget about it. Anyway, so he's just talking rubbish, and so I, pointed out rubbish, okay, fine. And so I made it really simple, right? I mean, he's just doing the natural fallacy thing, right? The natural fallacy, which is that's the way it is. So I made it simple for him. I just said, look, okay, the Martians kidnap human beings. They kill, slaughter in a horrible way, 10,000 children to get one to maturation. So one gets to maturation, they kill 10,000 children. That's what they're doing to human beings they have captured. So they have captured humans in a zoo. They kill 10,000 humans, 10,000 children in a horrible manner, have birds peck them to death. And just I made it as simple as I could make it. And I just said, look, you wouldn't find that acceptable, right? You'd have a war with the Martians. You would go to war with Mars. And he wouldn't say yes. He wouldn't agree to it. I mean, this is there's just these people. They will not. You will not confine yourself to any truth. You just won't. You refuse to lose the argument honestly. You refuse to man up and just admit that would be an unacceptable circumstance. And the only way you make this acceptable is through your bigotry. You have bigoted organisms, other sentient creatures on this planet into a less than a retarded human being status, and you have accepted their condition, and you, even though you know you wouldn't accept it if it was happening to your parents or your sister or somebody else, human, you wouldn't accept it, but you'll accept it because you're bigots. And that's the simple truth, and you don't have the balls to just admit you're bigoted cunts. And that's all these assholes are. Bigoted cunts seeking rationalizations for their absolute bullshit. Their convenient dishonesty. Ugh. Let's play some of this. Pyrrho's talking, I think. Ugh, just no point.
Means. What does it mean to be local and in some place, not absolutely figured out? So no, I can't agree with that on an absolute level. I can agree if you and I are paid to...
The question is...
There's no point, right? Yeah, so you can't get him to agree. You threw something in a bucket and Pyrrho won't agree it's in the bucket. It's just no point. There's no point. There's no fucking point in having a logical conversation with these bastards.
It's one of capability, yeah? Are you the verb able, right?
Am I able to say something I don't believe?
No. Yes, that's right.
Probably am able to do that, I just try not to.
As an accountant would say, are you able to say, right, it's in the box provisionally?
Well, I just said.
Yeah, I just said provisionally until I don't want it to be in the box, then I'll take it out because I don't want it. Because as soon as it implies something, as soon as it implies I owe $100, this pencil is now this pencil. Fuck. Ugh. Yeah, so it's all kind of lost its focus here. So Alpha Day is sort of, Pyrrho bailed, and so they never really got to the point, which is there's no point in having a conversation without agreed upon language. So if you're not going to agree upon what words mean, there's no point in having conversations. Now this fucktard is doing this defensive quantum crap. So again, what's the fucking point? You haven't even proven this existence of any of this entanglement or this dual identity crap. None of this shit has been demonstrated with any kind of real experiment. So it's just made up shit. And it really has nothing to do with the fact that this pencil is not this pencil. You're not going to change that with any of your quantum crap. You're not going to change the fact that when these two pencils are in proximity to each other, they now have the quality of two-ness. It's not going to change that fact. So why are you playing these fucking idiotic games? Why, and this asshole here, the Christian loony, starts talking about everything being subjective. No, it's not subjective. It's not. There's no reasonable alternative truth here. This pencil is not this pencil. There's no subjective interpretation that changes that fact. It's a fact. You're going to play a game. Okay, go ahead and play a game. Play a game. Say you're not wearing eyeglasses. Pretend you're not wearing eyeglasses. Go ahead and pretend. It's not a fact. It's not evidence-based. It's not reasonable. It can't be defended in any reasonable way as a theory, except if you're going to start inventing unicorns or something, dragons, fairy godmothers. What are you going to come up with? What kind of crap are you going to come up with to say you're not wearing glasses? How are you going to say you're not? It's not a subjective truth. It's an absolute fucking goddamn fact. Why are you playing this fucking game? Ooh, Logic Rolls the Dice has gotten in the room. This is his new Immanuel Kant image, which I don't really understand entirely, but fine. It's got us, it's interesting. So anyway, I'll be back. It's just, I'm just, work is never done. It's just terrible. Ugh, it's just brutal. It's just brutal. It's brutal. So now they're using the word love. So this is how they're proving contradiction. Now they're playing with words that have absolutely no meaning and to demonstrate contradictions. You can love somebody and hate somebody. Both words don't really have a coherent definition. What's the point? Oh, that's right, there's no point. That's right, there's no point in abolishing all conversation about words that actually do have a standard definition, and then choosing to have an explicit conversation about words that have no definition. Just amazing. Yeah, let's play some of this. It's just amazingly insipid.
Insofar as we can agree what it means to love.
But when you get into the detail, we can't agree about anything to that level. We can only agree to a certain threshold. We have to keep the threshold in mind. The threshold is important, and that's why it's provisional, because it's always provisional.
Right, it's provisional when you want it to be. So again, this is just such convenientism. Again, you don't apply your own standards to your own conversation. I don't see you premise any of your doctrinaire statements that you make with any kind of premises about what these words mean, or what context you mean to use them in, or any of this shit. So this is just such nonsense. You say there's no standards when I'm talking, and then when you're talking, there's standards. I mean, it's just, this is just such a cheat.
Based on what threshold you choose.
That's right.
Catch 22.
Once you delimit where it is that you're going to draw the line, even if there's no line in reality, that's where you say...
Pyrrho, then you just said about
No.
Right? When we say insofar as we can make an agreement, that means we have the capability in the abstract sense of making the agreement. Even if you secretly disagree.
We agree on what agreement is.
Yeah,
Again,
we agree on what agreement is. Right, so the word agreement now doesn't even mean anything. So, what is the point? Like I said, why are these people communicating on the internet when they will not abide by their own rules of incomprehensible language? All language must be incomprehensible. All words must mean nothing. This is just, again, I just, this is just such an overt molestation of language and its utility. It's just grotesque. This is more disgusting than, well, I won't compare it to some real harm in the world, but come on, this is a gross violation of decency. It's a crime against intelligence. Ugh, this really has elevated my contempt for Pyrrho. Anyway, so Logic rolls the dice in the room, but he's not doing much here in terms of countering this crap. But so Anaconda is once again, demonized. Now again, the communist argument. Okay, yes, communism. As soon as you have the thought about some concept of fairness, you create gulags. It's just some sort of, you automatically slide into gulag somehow. So the idea, if you're defending the idea that their value is in work and that workers should be paid the value of their work through a mechanism of fairness, not a mechanism of exploitation, and certainly not a mechanism where you exploit desperation, which is quite obviously what capitalism relies on. So the idea of the concept of fairness is now tyranny, by his logic. Pyrrho does nothing. Pyrrho, the social justice warrior, doesn't respond to that at all. Instead, babbles on about how he's, again, playing word games, and he doesn't have to accept any words as meaning anything. Just can't even come close to having a clue. Then the Anticonavad and Hathaway end up agreeing that the Benatar argument is not logical when it's fundamentally, explicitly quite logical, and they haven't refuted anything in it at all. The fact that there is a difference between not bad, okay, not bad, and good, that this whole concept of a good outside of the capacity to remove a bad doesn't really exist, and that's a fact. They're not going to describe any proof or evidence demonstrating this good that exists outside the existence of pre-existing needs or wants or desires. So again, it's just so irritating. So irritating. Certainly not going to demonstrate it by demonstrating any kind of rational proof that would demonstrate how the universe is somehow in some deprivated and negative state, a decisively negative condition because of the absence of good happening on Mars. The absence of good on Mars clearly isn't a negative. The absence of torture on Mars is clearly a good, factually. It's very good that there's no baby elephants being eaten on Mars. It's a factual good. The absence of Martians watching baseball, and pulling on their little tiny wieners, the absence of that joy is not a deficit. It's not a recognizable, cognizable negative. There, the asymmetry is proven by our own inability to cognize this negative value circumstance. No baby Martian elephants being eaten alive. No silly Martians whacking off to silly baseball games. The net victory of no baby elephants being eaten alive wins. Hands down. Done. Anyway.
Again, it's not entirely truthless. It's not like it's arbitrary. It's motivated. There's reasons to believe one thing rather than another.
Yeah, there's no reason to even have words, right? Because, Hathaway has this insipid definition of the word arbitrary. I mean, it's just an incredible definition of the word arbitrary. Arbitrary means a human says so. That's not arbitrary. Something with agency has to say so for it to be arbitrary. Arbitrary is synonymous with erroneous. Arbitrary means without cause, without cognizable, recognizable function or purpose or mission. That's arbitrary.
That does not generate this absolute epistemology you seem to be going for. It doesn't mean that the theory of...
Yeah, that's right. There's no point in having conversations with anybody. If you will not agree on any premises, there's no point in conversation. So why is this crap? What is the utility in this nonsense? I will evade the responsibilities and accountability when it's to my convenience. So I will always provisionally agree to things, so I can always leave a door open for me to sneak out the back door when it comes to the fact that now I have to pay $100, or it's inconvenient for me. So I will evade any kind of rational rules by just saying everything's provisional. I will decide when words mean something. I'll decide when they don't. And Anaconda said this explicitly. Somebody, watch this if you want to see it. I mean, he said it explicitly. All right. If you don't like the conclusion, just erase it. Period.
Things and properties is true, for example.
Okay, what's the motivation behind in the box or in the bin? I see that as a legitimate property, motivationless.
Well, you said it when you were talking about not being in your right mind. I mean, for for 0.999999999% fraction of the cases, that it's in the box is the reliable thing. If I'm asking, for example, you and I are going to go into a business where we sort colors.
Oh, he's going to do it again. So again, there's just no point. There's no point. If you're not going to agree that there has to be a standard for communication between people when you're talking about a subject, and you can't go through every subject saying, well, what exactly of the infinite number of bullshits you could come up with, what bullshit is off the table? Do we have to go through every, okay, no dragons, no leprechauns, no fairy godmothers, no 3 bears, no 3 little pigs, no 3 blind mice? Do we have to go through every fable and every fantasy and every made-up piece of shit and say, no, you can't use that in this argument? Do we have to really do that before we ever have a fucking conversation? Because we can't rule out 99. We can't rule out 0.00000000001% of your fucking fables that you wish to inject whenever you fucking feel like it. Oh God, you're just such a cheater.
Cubes for people. I believe we can do well enough that our mistakes will not. Well, let me just finish and then. Our mistakes will not impact our profitability, and I'm trying to make a living in that case.
So it just keeps changing. There's no point in making comparisons between what you will accept when it doesn't matter, and then say, I'm not going to make a distinction between conversations that actually do matter, where people's welfare is at jeopardy, and conversations where you're having some fantasy conversation about getting into a ribbon selling business with somebody. I mean, this is just pink ribbons, of course. This is just such bullshit. Bullshit, 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 bullshit. Alright. This is like the longest. I hate this shit. Oh, this is so tedious. I just want it to end. Well, anyway, so Hothladay is continuing to argue this whatever. He just keeps using obscure things like sweetness or whatever. It doesn't really matter, but it, he just keeps arguing with these people like, okay, you've agreed to a category definition, and if the thing fits the definition, it goes in the category. So it could be something like two-ness. This has two-ness. It has it. We've agreed on it. Now, how do you conditionalize that agreement? What possible excuse could you do to say later two-ness doesn't count because you're using two-ness to establish some other, four-ness later, and I don't want to agree to four-ness. So now I'm going to negate two-ness because I don't want to agree to four-ness. And let's see what the answer is. It's going to be no surprise. It'll have nothing to do with anything real. But this is the game being played. So now two-ness, we don't like four-ness, because four-ness is a consequence of two-ness. So now we're going to negate two-ness, and this is how Anaconda will do that.
It's a framework. If you're going to abstract...
He was going to answer the question. Why are you talking, Hothladay? Shut up. Shut up.
Match one to one,
shut up.
Then you're not answering.
He was going to answer the question. Why don't you shut up?
I'll be honest with you. I think that it's a liberty to ask me a question and then tell me how to answer it. That's what I think. So if you want my honest answer, I'll give you my honest answer. If you want the answer that you want me to give you, I can do that. The honest answer might not be what you want to hear, or might not be within the bounds of what you expect me to say. What I'm saying is, okay, let's say again, let's talk about my coffee here, okay?
Here we go.
Let's say that we're talking, let's say I put sugar in that coffee, and therefore we can say that this coffee is sweet, right? Does it have other attributes in it? Okay? If something is sweet, let's say that it's not bitter.
Right. So if a rapist rapes, and we call him a rapist, the fact that he's also a mechanic means he's now not a rapist because he's a mechanic. And the mechanic didn't commit the rape, the rapist committed the rape. So even the mechanic and the rapist are the same person, the mechanic is a mechanic and the rapist is a rapist, and somehow the two don't mix, even though they're the same person. Okay, yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, really. I love philosophy. Philosophy is just so cool. Fuck. Philosophy on the internet. You really do feel retarded after a point. I mean, there's just a point where you just say, why am you shouldn't talk with these people. I just have to figure out how to unravel the universe. Yeah, that's what I have to do. I have to figure out how to make, a dark energy machine and implode the universe. There's no communicating with these imbeciles. Oh, fuck. Alright, so I don't know. I'm almost out of time, which is good, because you won't have to endure any more of this. So his argument is he can negate things by saying it has more than one property, right? And then Pyrrho says that's a good point. That's a salient point. It's a salient point to say somebody's not a rapist because they have size 10 shoes. Because they have size 10 shoes, now they're a size 10 shoe wearer. They're not a rapist. Because they have some other property, somehow it undoes the property of being a rapist. No, it doesn't undo it. It has absolutely nothing to do with it. The fact that it has some other property has nothing to do with the properties it does have. You don't negate properties by acquiring other properties. You just don't. You can't undo a property. You can't undo the fact that it fits in the category. Two-ness exists. Even if it's part of four-ness, even if it's part of six-ness, its two-ness is still two-ness. It's still there. It's there. I mean, I could add three-ness. Two-ness is still there. Get it? Fuck.
Monopoles of property.
I can agree. Yeah, I can agree that Xness exists, but we're now talking about, does Xness exist in this?
We already talked about this. We said that this is what Xness was. We said there's sweetener in this coffee. Okay, the fact that there's bitterness in the coffee, or the fact that there's a banana worm inside the coffee, doesn't have anything to do with the fact that we've already agreed that sweetness is in the coffee. You can't say it doesn't have sweetness because it has a worm in it. The worm doesn't make it unsweet. This is just idiotic. This is not logic. It's not sensible. It's irrational nonsense. This is fucking goddamn beneath baby talk. It's incomprehensible, uncognizable, absolute rubbish. This is garbage. This is fucking insane babble. This is insane babble. This is insane babble. This is insane babble. Okay. Mumbo jumbo. Mumbo jumbo, mumbo jumbo. Remember the mumbo jumbo song? I have to go find the mumbo jumbo song. Mumbo jumbo. Let's just finish up here. Anyway, exhausting. It really is exhausting. So from, Pyrrho would just play this game. He won't agree to the existence of properties. He won't just anything. So if you said this is if I put a fish here in front of me, a fish, you just say, no, I won't accept the idea that we're going to use the word fish to describe fish, the things that swim in the ocean, blah, 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 blah. That they have a certain criteria, and we're just going to be, we can be really specific. We can write all in detail in some encyclopedia what exactly qualifies as a fish, but he's just not even going to agree to the fact that we can ever have this thing where we say, yes, this has the property of fish. He's just never, he won't even agree to that. So it's like, why does this guy have a right to use language? We should pass a law and just say this guy can't use language, because he doesn't want to use language. He wants to just abuse language. He wants to make words mean nothing. Like, they mean something when he says them, they mean nothing when you say them. That's all these guys are saying. That's all these motherfuckers are doing. They're just saying when I say a word, it means something. When you say a word, it means nothing. That's all they're doing. And it's just such an overt and grotesque cheat. Yes, they should go to prison or something. Forever. It's this is just too gross a violation of sensibility. It's insensible nonsense to have that kind of grotesque double standard. I will use words as if they mean something. When you say words, they mean nothing.